Okay, good morning or good afternoon again, depending on where in the world you are. Thanks again for joining us. My name is Brock Berry. I'm the CEO and co-founder at AdCellerant, and today we're going to be covering creative is king, especially during a crisis. Thanks for joining us. I am joined by the one and only Adam Lee. Adam Lee is the president at Techent Labs. He's a longtime friend and colleague and coworker. We're excited to have him on the call today because, as many of you know, if you're a current AdCellerant partner or a prospective AdCellerant partner, creative is not necessarily a service we do in large part for our customers. So this is a subject matter that is not our core competency. However, we've asked Adam to join us. His company, Techent Labs, is far more adept at creative and probably in Colorado, one of the leading creative agencies that are available today. So Adam, thanks again for joining us. Would you like to just quickly introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Brock. Appreciate you having me. My name's Adam Lee. I'm the president of Techent Labs. We are a performance-driven ad agency. Creative is a core competency of our agency and something we spend quite a bit of time on. And our clients have been asking a lot of questions, have had a lot of ideas around how to really attack this COVID crisis through the creative lens, and hopefully some of the research and data that we've put together over the last few weeks is going to be useful to the larger group today. So looking forward to sharing that information. Thanks again, Brock.
Thanks, Adam. Okay, everybody, we're gonna jump through. We're gonna talk a little bit about AdCellerant just to get everybody who may not be familiar with who we are and what we do, catch you up to speed on what we're doing and why we believe this team and the folks that certainly we have on the call today are subject matter experts in what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about why it's so important, best practices, and then the exciting stuff, leveraging visuals, diving into creative messaging and best practices during a pandemic or during an emergency. And we'll pull that back together at the very end, talking about how we've been using creative to help sell and certainly to help maintain and grow advertising relationships. We'll end with a quick Q&A. And if you guys have any questions as we're going through this, please feel free to type them into the Q&A box or into the chat box. And at the end of the presentation, we'll circle back and make sure we get all those questions answered. Thank you very much. No need to take copious notes. You will receive this presentation after this meeting and a copy of the video as well. So let's get started, get comfortable, and we'll start going through the content. So quickly about AdCellerant, we're a technology and digital advertising company. We're really focused on making Madison Avenue level digital marketing solutions available to Main Street businesses. And in today's market, we think that's more important than ever. It's Main Street that's hurting the worst from what's happening, and we all want to be the people that are there to help solve those problems. Adam Lee is driving the bus today, so if you notice that the car seems to be jiggering or swaying all over the road, it's all Adam's fault, just so we're all on the same page with the presentation.
Absolutely. Blame everything on me. And as I told Brock earlier today, I actually haven't driven a real car in a while either. So whether it's a presentation or a car, user beware. So thanks for calling that out, Brock.
No problem. Okay, so quickly, we just talked about who we are at a high level. This team at AdCellerant says 80 individuals here. We're proud to say we haven't lost anyone through what's happening and the kind of unprecedented turbulence the market's in. And we're actually up to almost 90 people on our team, normally all based out of one office here in Denver, Colorado. But considering the climate, we have a lot of people sparsely collected all over the city of Denver and the state of Colorado, servicing our partners today. We are doing that through our proprietary technology system called UI.marketing. That system really is focused on sales enablement, so helping build proposals at scale for your sales teams, fulfillment and execution, so a lot of order automation that's built into there, allowing us to deliver effectively seamless execution for your advertisers, and then reporting, so we can show your advertiser we did what we said we would do. We've been doing this now for several years, for about 6 years, and we do it for over 300 different local media companies around the world. this is our passion. We service tens of thousands of advertisers through these channel sales partnerships. And through our partnerships and because of our partners and our team, we've been afforded the opportunity. We're one of the fastest growing companies according to Inc. magazine. We're also awarded the top in customer service just today. If you go check it out on the internet, check it out on our website and our social media pages. Our team, our account management team servicing our partners are really among the best in the industry.
Congrats on that award, Brock. That's really exciting.
It's nice to win things when things are this crazy. It's nice to have good news to add on to all the tough stuff that we're all navigating.
No doubt about it.
So what are we doing for our partners? As I mentioned, there's this cutting edge technology. Again, it's really helping with the sales process, the execution process, and reporting. We're putting that all together through one login. We want to make that super easy for our partners and for your advertisers. Our team of professional service members, our ad operations team, has been doing this for many years, and this team delivers nearly perfect execution at almost 99% effective execution every single month, with an average partner retention of 97.5%. So we're growing rapidly, executing pretty flawlessly, and maintaining those customer relationships. And we're really focused on delivering these advanced advertising solutions across all these platforms that you see underneath the computer here on the right-hand side of the page. So pretty much any paid media product, we are helping with the fulfillment and execution on those things for our partners. And what better segue to talk about? You can't fulfill on any of these products unless you have some great creative. So I'm going to kick it over to Adam here. He's really the star of the show. I want him to tell you all about his experience at Tekken and what he's doing for his clients and the direction he gives his customers every single day. And I'll try to chime in with a few intelligent comments or at least a few silly questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Brock. Appreciate it. AdCeleron is such a great partner of ours, great company. It's very impressive what you've built. And again, just appreciate the opportunity today to talk about some of the things that we've learned over the past few weeks. I'm going to start off with just some basics. I know, many of you on the call or the webinar today probably knows a lot of this information, but it's never a bad thing to brush up on some of the basics, and just know that there's no need to take notes because we will be able to send out this presentation to all attendees after the presentation. So I'm going to just cruise through the first few slides here and really get to the meat of the presentation. But the question is, why is creative important? Most of you probably run programmatic display advertising. Well, this year alone, there's going to be over $65 billion spent just on that. And so there's a lot of clutter. There's a lot of ads, and creative is a way to help differentiate your business and marketing. And if done right, can really help you break through that clutter. It can be glue that really ties your campaign together. You can have a great strategy, have all the right platforms, all the right targeting levers being pulled, but if you don't have that creative to back it up, the performance isn't going to be what it should be. It's also a great chance to tell your story. Who are you? What do you do? What do you have to offer to the community? We're going to show you some examples in a few slides here of what some companies are doing right now as a great way to tell your story. We also want to use creative to help guide your user down that acquisition funnel. Are you just introducing yourself? Have you already done that and you need to educate them on what it is that you actually do? Or are they already a customer or almost becoming a customer and you are trying to push them over the finish line to purchase something again? So creative can help push people through all of those phases. Interestingly enough, studies show that people have the ability to recall 65% of the visual content that they see almost 3 days later. So not only can great creative make an impact immediately, it can stick with somebody days later and help them become a client of yours. So just a few best practices. Again, this is kind of the, I don't want to say NyQuil of the presentation, but it's just really good to brush up on some of the basics. One thing that most people don't realize is that static ads outperform animated ads typically. That certainly goes against the thoughts in the industry. There's a lot of reasons for that. But if you are I'm going to be putting together creative. Let's make sure that you're doing it the right way. Make sure that anything that you're putting on an ad to represent your business is high quality. Respect your brand. You don't want pixelated images. You don't want different fonts that are clashing with each other. You want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward, because it truly is that first impression that a user is going to have of your business. These recommended sizes, these are basically table stakes. You need to make sure that you have a presence both on desktop or laptop as well as mobile. That's at 300 by 50, 320 by 50. Think about how often everybody here on this webinar has their phone with them. Well, your prospective buyers are no different. So I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the questions here. Absolutely. And just a reminder, we'll be answering some questions at the end of the presentation, so please keep them coming. Appreciate that. We also want to make sure that we establish a hierarchy. So if you look at the example to the right, there's a logo, there's a value proposition, and a very clear call to action. Those are the three main pieces of a solid display ad. A couple other tips and tricks. Don't make your fonts too small. Make sure you have borders and contrasting colors to make sure that, for instance, this red call to action pops out. And when you're building your ads, we recommend you build them in RGB color mode, because they're going to show up as intended on almost any screen. Moving into everybody's favorite platform, Facebook. So Facebook, there's so much going on, and there's a lot that we could spend a whole webinar just on creative on Facebook, but there's a couple key pieces that I'll point out here. There's really 4 main creative units that stand out as it relates to the advertising that we do. You can use a static image. You can use carousel advertising to show a series of images to help tell a story. You can use a video that you have, and a collection ad is using an image or a video, just like what you're seeing on the right with Adidas, with specific products below it, product tiles that allow you to engage and ultimately purchase something from this ad directly. The main thing that you need to know on Facebook is, one, when to use each format. That really depends on the situation you're in with your advertiser. But at the same time, you need to understand what the limits are within that creative. So there is a 20% rule. I'm guessing most of you have dealt with this with all the advertising that you do, but you can only have 20% of your ad as copy. And so if you look at the Adidas example to the right, you'll see it says, oversized hood cancels noise from traveling. Well, you can see how small that copy actually is as it relates to the image as a whole. And it also makes the ad clean, and it's very image forward, which is what Facebook or Instagram really wants to push. They don't want to bog their users down with tons of copy and information. They really want it to be image forward, so brands can tell their story clearly. Now, you might ask, what happens if you break that 20% rule? 1, they're not going to run your ad. 2, if you are right there on the precipice, you're in the 19-20% range, they'll allow your ad to run. However, they will slow down delivery and also charge you more for the delivery that you are executing. So, it's really important to understand best practices as it relates to Facebook advertising, because it can really turn your results in the wrong direction.
Adam, it sounds like Facebook in this particular case has almost stolen a page out of Google with the quality score there, right? And they're penalizing people for having, lower quality creative or, a lower quality user experience. So then the ad dollar doesn't go as far.
You're exactly right. They are, just like Google, they want to make sure that their users are having the best experience possible. And so, when we are running our campaigns, we need to keep that very top of mind because it can burn budget and slow down results very quickly, just like it can on Google. Good question, Brock.
Makes sense.
On the video and CTV side, I won't spend much time here, but one thing that I will point out is that, anything that we talk about today as it relates to just best practices or COVID related messaging also applies to video. A lot of our examples here today will be display or social ads, but any of these best practices can also be layered on top of video ads. It's also important to note that if you are running something such as a companion banner for your video ad, which means that you are, in the same pane that you're running a video, on that same page, there's also a display ad unit running next to it. So they're companions to one another, that they should have the same theme and also link out typically to the same landing page. So, when you're running creative in unison, make sure that they're talking to each other and from the same family. On the email front, we wanted to touch on email because it is so visual. And as I just go through, this list here, I want you to think about the third-party or promotional emails that you receive. This is a service that we provide our clients, and it is something that we do a lot of, but with some simple tips and tricks, you can raise performance quickly, which helps with retention and also more top line revenue, which is something that we're all here for. So on the email front, think about the story that you want to tell. It is one giant piece of creative. So while the height technically can go as long as you want, you don't want to put too much information in one email because nobody's going to get to the bottom of it. So you need to be clear, concise, and get your point across quickly, just as you want, your advertisers to do when you engage with that type of message. Best practice is to build your email creative in HTML. If you have the ability to build them from scratch, great. If not, use a program like Dreamweaver. It can help guide you through that process. Oftentimes, and this has gotten much better, but in the past, people would like to use one big image. We do a lot of work with higher education, and so somebody would want to put, a picture of a beautiful building on campus in their email. Well, if you leave it as one image, it's going to get kicked to spam almost automatically. And so it's really important to slice your image, and you can use a program like Adobe Fireworks to help you do that really quickly. You also want to use, just like in your display ads, web-safe fonts. You don't want to use some specialized font in your email that's not going to show up properly on 50% of the recipients. So just make sure that you're keeping it safe on the font side. And then just very basic, don't put 50 characters, more than 50 characters in your subject line. Don't yell at your customers with all cap locks, and avoid words like free, last chance, and offer. Gmail specifically does not like that, and they'll push you to spam. Brock put together some email templates for AdCellerant's clients. You want to talk that through a little bit, Brock?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just kind of taking a page out of what Adam has talked about and a lot of things we've learned from his team about best practices for creative. One of the consistent, challenges, I think, for our partners, and something we've been trying to solve through our newly released email solution, is just, easier creative. So we created this website, emaillayouts.com. It's a free service, but you can jump on there. Adam, if you click into any of these, it's not labeled with AdCellerant or any other brand. It's meant to be used kind of freely with customers so they can get an idea of how, what kind of imagery they might want to use in their ad, what kind of layout. And then below the kind of examples that you see are all the specs, all the specific things that would be needed to create the ads. And the goal is, kind of to Adam's point, we're really trying to improve email performance through creative. And this is one product similar to Facebook and Google, but almost worse, where you're penalized for bad creative. Because as Adam said, if it's one image or you use certain words or too many characters, it almost automatically causes the email just to go to a spam mail box. And obviously for most of everybody's customers, they're really trying to get an ad message into the actual mailbox of the consumer. So all these different layouts that Adam's kind of quickly surfing through here are designed to do that. And we can actually help build these as well. It just kind of depends on the company's needs. So we've taken a lot of pages out of Adam's book and what he's talking about. Go ahead, Adam.
Thanks. And just a reminder, this link will be in the presentation that we send out after. So last thing on the basics here is how do you use creative to drive conversions? Like I said, we are performance-based at Tech and Labs, and while branding campaigns are great, most of us and our clients, don't have the luxury of not getting a return on their investment. So, if you have the ability to have more than one creative set going, that's great, because somebody in ad operations is able to quickly see which ad messaging is outperforming the other, and quickly optimize your campaign. If you have a retargeting campaign going, make sure that your creative speaks to somebody that's already engaged with your brand and is not a first introductory creative piece. You're going to see much better performance if you're able to do that. Little things like no phone number or website URLs in the actual ad itself, that deters ad engagement. If you do use animation, which we do for a lot of our ads, make sure you're not overdoing it and you're using that as a tool to promote something important or a message that you're trying to get across. And most importantly, your landing page should follow the theme of the creative, and you should make it extremely easy once somebody does engage with your ad and come to your landing page or website to provide or convert information that you need as a business. So that could be a phone call, a form fill, a lean gen card, whatever. So just some best practices to keep in mind as we get into, this COVID messaging. So this is really the meat of the presentation. And I know why most of you are here. I love this.
This is why I'm here. I just wanted to be clear.
Good.
I also really like what you did with this particular title slide. Great use of creative.
Good to have a little humor nowadays. But I know as Brock and I were talking through, what are some of the things that we're hearing from our clients? What are we hearing in the marketplace? And really, it's that, people have questions on what do you say in your creative? What's culturally on point? What's appropriate? Is it too soon to use humor in your creative? And these are all questions that we want to help answer today. One of the most interesting things that we found in our research is that people are adjusting to COVID in phases. So the way that they reacted a couple months ago is not how they're feeling today, and that will continue to evolve, and it's something to keep an eye on. First, people were engaging with fear-based imagery and fear-based creative. That was kind of late Feb to mid-March. And that people were really using fear to drive conversions for their businesses. But quickly, people wanted to then calm down a little bit. There was so much fear, there was so much unknown happening in the marketplace that people wanted something that calmed them down. So, platforms like Facebook or Google or some of the ad networks we work with are giving us information saying that, some of the, best performing ad units are very calming and Zen-like. And now it's transitioned again that people want to move forward and get back to real life, but they want to do it safely. So these behaviors are changing rapidly. And I think there's ways that, information we can glean in ways that we can take advantage of that as we're building out creative for our business or for our clients. There's a study that we received just a couple days ago from Kantar Media, and this is just from this week. And there's a couple findings there. So one, we just talked about people are wanting to get back to normal, but social spaces are missed. So, I'm a huge basketball fan. I'm a big Denver Nuggets fan. They should be in the playoffs right now. And I'd love to go to the Pepsi Center with my sons and watch the Nuggets play, but it's not happening, number one. And if it were to happen, it most likely wouldn't be safe. People are viewing things like that as very risky. Now, something that we both found, Brock and I, very interesting is that people aren't sitting on their earnings. We really expected to see a slowdown in spending and e-commerce spending, but that's not the case. They're spending on things like food, which is a high priority, but also things to help alleviate some of that cabin fever that's happening. And as they're finding things to engage with, whether that's clothes, I've gotten some really unique messaging around, packages that include, a business shirt on top and then gym shorts on the bottom, and you can buy them together because everybody's doing all these Zoom meetings. But people are finding ways to engage with new audiences in a really unique way, and creative is really leading that effort. So the main takeaways from the research that we're seeing is, one, people are still consuming. And if you aren't advertising, you are missing out. Now, the thing is, though, you need to be topical with your creative to help you stick out. You don't want to be tone deaf. You don't want to push it too far. And it goes back to those initial questions we talked about. Is it, what's the best way to get in front of our prospective audience?
Yeah,
So,
Adam, I was just going to say on that last slide, you're absolutely right. We've been doing a ton of promotion, pushing out like different ways to, to engage different categories that fall into that, necessary business grouping. And what we're hearing is, anecdotally in different advertiser campaign reviews and things, we're hearing that, although business is down, and I'd be, other than, unless you're ServPro or somebody who does cleaning of offices and detoxing, getting rid of coronavirus, those companies are really up. But for the most part, most of these advertisers are down, but they're saying with the advertising they're running, they're down less. And I think that's the key here, is helping them create sort of revenue and cash flows right now, and taking advantage of the fact of what you just said. I mean, people are still spending money. It's probably more cautiously than usual, but as they go out and search, the advertising is also, there isn't as much out there. So they're, when they run into a message that resonates with their need, there isn't 10 other companies they're thinking about because they received 10 other similar ads that day. So just anecdotally, we're seeing the same thing.
great. Yeah, great point there, Brock. And so, as we're talking about what are we seeing, what's in the market? Well, we had the ability to look at about the top 1,000 ad campaigns that ran this month so far. And that spans not only digital, but some other mediums as well, because we wanted to find what is the message that's being used the most. So we kind of picked out the 13 or 14, most common themes that we're seeing across advertising. And this goes from everything from Fortune 100, 500 down to local mom and pop shops. And we'll show some examples here in a few slides of how you can actually put this to actual use in your advertising. But the top themes, and I'm sure these are no surprise to most of you, but it's really good to get them on paper, is, together we can do this. Just kind of the feeling of we're in this together and we're here for you. What can you do while you're spending your time at home? It's easy and safe to give. How you can give back to the community. That contactless delivery is so important. It's something that me and my wife and two little boys are hyper aware of. We want to make sure that we're keeping our families safe. And if a brand is really promoting what they're doing to remain safe, it makes us feel much more comfortable to engage with them at this time. It's also important that these companies are protecting their people. Brock and I, unrelated to this, talk about, what we can do for our staffs and how we can protect our own people right now. And it's just super top of mind, and being able to share that with, your larger customer base makes them want to support you. Other things like extra help for all, courage is beautiful, enjoy this new normal. What does this mean? I know for me, I've had a Peloton for a few years now, and I've really been able to get reacquainted with the bike, and kind of enjoy the new normal of, more home time, more dad time, and more time on the bike to stay in shape. And ultimately, there's so many messages that can resonate. And I think one of the biggest things that you need to know is that, you don't want to come off tone deaf. And I think the best way to do that is through your copy. Oftentimes people think creative is just imagery. It's just, that initial feeling somebody gets from your ad. And while that's not wrong, the copy on your ad is just as important as the images themselves. And so here's some great copywriting guidelines that we've put together. Again, we'll send this out to help your designers and your business, really position your ads to really fit in today's environment. So first and foremost, you want to stay sensitive. You don't want to come off as insensitive or exploitative. You don't want to make it sound like you're trying to just make money off the situation. That's not going to play with anybody. Contribution, not conversion. So, instead of really driving somebody towards just buying something, show them the value that you're giving them, the contribution that you're giving to that individual or that family, and what it means to them in this situation. This is a great rule, and I can't stress this enough. Better too serious than sorry. If you think you're straddling the line, dial it back, at least today. I'm a huge fan of risky advertising, of having a brand take a stand. I'm all for it. But right now, we need to make sure that we're staying more serious than not. Along those same lines, you can't go wrong being positive, inspirational, helpful, uplifting. Those are things that people want. People are gravitating towards that positivity. It's something that, my wife and I, it's very top of mind for us, engaging with something that is positive. And just check for insensitive words like killer, contagious, viral, gather. You don't want to be, you don't want to come off insensitive, even if you don't realize you are. So really make sure you're reviewing the words or the copy that's in your ads, and also adjust for relevance. So, you don't want to be advertising for, a birthday party venue that holds 100 people. Just make sure you understand the situation you're in. We can't gather right now in a lot of our states. And so be socially aware of that, and make sure that you're not promoting something that's not allowed currently, in this environment. So,
and I just say, like, on the positive side of what you were just talking about personally, as I think about all the ads that I've been seeing lately, I mean, there's so much negativity on the news and things like that. I'm happy to see somebody using a positive message to try to get me to engage with them as a consumer. I think that really resonates right now. People are looking for, the sunny side of what's happening as much as possible. So I think you guys are absolutely on point with that.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. There's just so much negativity. This, being positive and adding value and contributing to somebody's well-being, is really resonating right now. And here's a great example of that. And I saw this while I was, browsing online, and I thought it would be a great example for this webinar, is BMW. We've all seen the ads where, the beautiful car is zooming around the curve and it's taking that tight curve perfectly like a BMW should. But, they use kind of the normal imagery that people are used to, but then flipped it on its head. And so the first one says the only curve that matters. And then it gets into is the one we need to flatten, stay safe. So it's very topical. It's clearly referencing the social distancing and COVID situation. On the right-hand side, it talks about, there's still a tagline. Today we drive forward without driving at all. So, it seems counterintuitive for a car company to be telling people not to drive, but they're being very socially sensitive and delivering a great message. And then there's a call to action. So stay in touch while staying safe, learn more. when I clicked through, this actually went to a landing page that allowed for at-home test drive. So somebody would bring you a car and you could test drive in your own neighborhood, and they described the steps they were taking to keep you safe and clean during that process. So I thought this was just a really good example of how to use something that's topical, apply it to your business, and still drive, your bottom line forward. A few more examples, again, using some of the rules that we just talked about in previous slides. Lowe's has been doing a great job in social and video, in their programmatic display, talking about how they're here to help you. They have the essential supplies and items you need while you're at home. There's a phone company talking about a government program that they can help you apply for to make sure that you can stay connected to your family. The Hooters ad, is something that is a little bit on the lighter side, but it's still topical. Stay in with wings. It's not order wings. It's stay at home, but still, utilize our business for your food needs. And I really like, and the last one I'll point out here is the Verizon ad, where they use a different call to action. A call to action is a very hot button for me. Me and my team argue quite a bit on which ones are best. And we kind of let the data do the talking there, but see how is not one that you often, use within advertising, but they're talking about they're here to help. They want to help first responders stay connected. See how they're doing that. So it's a softer call to action. They're really, enticing you to just learn more about what it is that they're doing. But in true Verizon fashion, if you were to go through to the page, they are still trying to sell you something as a business. So I'll address this question because it's topical. How does this apply to the 20% Facebook rule? So almost all of these, with the exception of Hooters, would not work well on Facebook. Just because there's way too much copy in order to run this on Facebook. So these ads are for programmatic display. So this is what you're going to see, as you're browsing the internet, and these are banner ads. So you would need to take down the copy immensely for the social versions of this ad. I'd say the only one that could potentially work is the Hooters, and even then, you need to probably bring down the stay in with wings a little bit to fit into the 20% copy rule.
And I'll just throw on the programmatic side, I think if you look at the Lowe's and the Verizon ads, there's just enough copy, meaning it's almost like a billboard, but it's on your computer, your laptop, your phone, or whatever. Because if you have too much copy, I'd almost say the Q-Link, the way it's done, is almost too much even for programmatic. Because are you going to read all that? With the Lowe's and the Verizon, it's cleaner, it's easier to read, you'll get through it. And then in the Q-Link ad, it's probably a little text heavy. And especially the way it's designed, it makes it harder to read. So I think these are all relevant and great questions, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we'll answer your questions here once we're through. We only have a couple more slides left, but just 3 more quick examples of, Walmart, super clean. This could most likely work on social media if you sized it down properly. Together, we'll get through this. Everybody knows Walmart. They know who the brand is, and they're really promoting what it is that they're doing as a company to help get through this. But they're really invoking a sense of community, that they're in it, with you, and they want to help you through this. There's also companies like Uncle Mattio's Pizza that typically doesn't deliver. It's almost like a Chipotle, of pizza where you come in and it's made to order and you get to pick your toppings. Well, they flipped to offer delivery, and now they're, really promoting their delivery services. And then Uber Eats is really tugging at the, community strings, if you will, of, let's support our local restaurants. We're in this with you as a community. Order through Uber Eats to support your local, business owners. And I know Brock has a couple of ideas on how to use these principles to help, drive revenue.
I think it's important we tie all these things back to what all of us are doing every single day in the field with customers. And I see creative, I mean, it's obviously tremendously important, and this is what Adam's been focused on. It's a tremendously important for the advertiser once the campaign starts. So, if you're using all these best practices, you're leveraging some of these things he's advising us on, then the campaign will work better, right? You can get better conversions, so on and so forth. But I also believe, and I've used it a lot, and I think especially right now, it's really useful, but you can use it to sell. So if you have creative services in-house, or you have options or ideas, or resources, if you will, that can help you build a spec ad, I think a spec ad helps the advertiser get to a yes a lot faster right now. And we're seeing some of this in the field. So it helps them wrap their mind around how they advertise in spite of what's happening. So a couple things we've seen work for different companies. I've just given two examples here. You know, sometimes, let's say this is your advertiser, and they offer, that's a bar, and they're, typically you're going in there and having cocktails, but instead they're trying to do delivered sort of drinks. So I actually had somebody tell me yesterday on a Zoom call. They said, my new favorite thing about this is I can go get cocktails, pick them up, and leave with them and take them home with me. And I thought, oh, that's an interesting thing to appreciate. I suppose I can see how that's great. But this advertiser is taking advantage of that. And they're just, in the spec ad, we're showing them the type of messaging that could work for them. We're showing, how they can include social distancing in their execution, if you will. And we're this is appealing. I mean, I don't know about everybody on this phone. One of my embarrassing quirks or things about myself is that most mixed drinks I like to drink would typically only be ordered on the beach in the sun. So no matter what time of year, any drink that I get that's mixed drink, it almost always looks like something like this picture. But that makes me want to buy it, And then they show you how you can take action right away. But if we put this spec ad together for our customer, what I think you end up doing is you end up helping them wrap their mind around how they market their products and services during this crisis, right? And I think that helps them get to a yes faster. Sometimes it's hard for them to visualize what they should be doing. And then the next one is just another example. We've seen a lot of campaigns for different churches or places of worship, and this was a great example too, where they talk about how people can engage normally in abnormal times, right? They're able to do it online, and then they talk about how they're helping them, and they hadn't focused a lot on this, but this spec ad and using this spec ad in the sales process helps this place of worship realize I can still be relevant right now, and I need to tell people that I have a message for them that could help them get through this. And I can't emphasize enough, I think spec ads are probably more useful today than they are ever, because I think business owners are having a tough time figuring out how to market themselves in spite of what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely, Brock. And I'll have two things to add. First is I think that to-go drinks are, even better depending on the age of your children. My 1-year-old and 3-year-old have driven my wife and I to our local margarita hut a few different times, so we've taken advantage of that. But on the other side, on the more serious side, one of the things we talk about as a company, and when we're trying to close new businesses, we don't want them thinking about if they should work with us. We want them thinking about what it's going to feel like when they do work with us. And, you don't want them to have to make that decision as far as, should we work with this company? Help them envision what it's going to look like, what their advertising is going to look like when it's live, and how that's going to help their business. And using spec creative helps speed up that process tremendously.
Great stuff. What do we have next? Oh yes, so last thing, this will be available through this presentation, but we have a great, working with Adam's team actually on this, digital ad creative best practices guide that you can use, a PDF that's super slick for pretty much any type of creative you can imagine. We have that emaillayouts.com site that you'll also have access to. We encourage people for creative ideas. We did a lot of this in preparing for this presentation. Go to moat.com. Great place to find different brands and what they're using in their messaging and creative right now. we've also been sending work over, just helping companies who need creative work at scale for less, for inexpensively, to a company called Design Pickles. So we're kind of throwing that in here as a resource that we've been using. And then of course, Tekken's team. I mean, their stuff is far fancier than anything I have here at AdCellerant, but their creative team is truly on another level. Adam, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think these are all just great resources, and we try to go into our creative builds and rebrands or logo designs with as much research and data as possible. And hopefully today, some of that information we've pulled together over the course of this COVID situation can help you as a business owner or a media company, and helping your clients, drive their creative messaging forward, because it's only going to make the results better. So I just really appreciate you, Brock, having me today. I know we have a couple questions that people asked. If you want to maybe get into that.
I'll tee them up and you can jump on them. My favorite Q&A comment so far is the presentation has made somebody want a Bloody Mary. I just want to reinforce that, these when you work from home, it's kind of like working at the airport. That means you're allowed to have a drink any time of the day. That's the current business rule that I'm working off of personally. Depends on the day. Always going to have something by 4 o'clock.
Yeah, that's great question.
Great question. Totally socially acceptable. Another question, Adam, I really wanted you to answer, somebody had asked it earlier, was what does A/B testing mean?
Sure.
So if you can give some examples of how you guys use that, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So A/B testing is the practice of using two different messages or two different pieces of creative and putting them both in market and seeing which image or creative or message is resonating the most with an audience. And so typically what we'll do is we'll know we're trying to reach, just using a super simple example, females between the age of 25 and 34 that make, $75,000 and live in this zip code and have this type of job. Well, we know who our target audience is, but we're not quite sure which message is going to resonate the most with them. So instead of just creating one ad set that has one specific image, one call to action, we'll build two different versions. And then we'll put them both in market at the same time, and we'll see which one is garnering the best results. And it is, almost like clockwork, one will rise to the top, and it happens in a matter of days. It happens quickly. And so we'll do that across the board. Sometimes for some of our clients, we'll have, 4, 5, 6, 7 different sets in market, trying to figure out, is it the red button or the blue button? Or, you can get very, granular with it, but just on the surface, put in two different types of ads to the same audience and see which one resonates the most. It's not only going to give you better returns, but it's also going to give you some really good business intelligence on the messaging you could maybe be using in your, internal emails or, website, etc. So it's a really good practice to adhere to.
Cool. I had another one for you, Adam. This is put you on the spot, see how creative you really are. We have, someone says they have a graduation special section coming up. Usually schools for our Catholic paper take out ads congratulating students, etc. Right now, they're struggling a bit to come up with copy for that. Is there something that you think would be, relevant? That's still sort of being thoughtful and about what's happening in the world, but allowing them to still congratulate those students.
Wow. Thank you for putting me on the spot. I think it's a great question. It's really comes down to the core of what we're talking about today. Like, how do I change my message to make it resonate in today's society? Because things have changed. And first and foremost, my creative director and her team would be much better to answer a question like this, that's for sure. But I would lean on the serious side. Don't avoid the situation that's happening. We know things are different for this graduating class. That being said, highlight the things that they're going to do for society and the things that they're going to, accomplish over the next few years. You're moving on to one of the most important periods of your life, and, we're with you every step of the way. So applying some of those principles that we talked about in messaging and copywriting, staying serious, recognizing the situation, yet still pushing, your message forward. Here's why I'm running an ad. It's because we support you, and we want you to know that we're here to support you. And I think there's ways to be creative on how to pull that all together and still accomplish, if not even more than normal, the purpose of that advertising.
Excellent. I'm going to keep going through here real quick. Somebody had asked about how they get access to some of the resources and stuff. They were maybe late to the call. Just so you know, you'll get access to everything that's been mentioned in this presentation as a follow-up to the presentation. So no worries there. And if you have any questions, you can reach out through the messages that you receive, and we'll get you whatever you need. So no problem at all. We have another question here. If we're having resolution of ads, if we're having issues with resolution of ads with a client, do you have anyone on your team who can troubleshoot the issue, or any resources we can use? Okay, so this sounds like an ad seller customer. So if it's an email creative, that's something that we are working on. We do help in isolated cases, things like Facebook ads, because that's actually something that we get the stuff from your teams and we put into Facebook. So that's an area that we do some troubleshooting on. If it's standard display things, let us know. We have resources like Design Pickle, Adam's team here at TechEd, where we can try to help you get with someone who can help you solve a problem. But it's not in our core competency. We currently don't offer creative services on a scalable solution. Let's see here. Adam, we had a follow-up, I think, to the A/B testing, and then we'll probably have to cut it after this. So last question, at least for audio answer. What percentage of the budget do you allocate for A/B testing along the way, and how long do you need it to run to determine which one works best?
Great question with a somewhat bad answer. The answer is it depends. And I think, it really depends on the situation. But if we are just taking it high level, you're going to want to at least give the creative enough time to breathe. So we don't want to make any changes in a campaign in, less than 24 hours. That's way too soon. I would say at a minimum, you want to split if you're just starting a fresh campaign, I would split the budget right down the middle, 50-50, and let them run at least for a week, if not two, depending on, how relevant the advertising is. And then from there, once you find one that rises to the top, you're going to want to scale back or even remove the one that's not performing as well. And then as you're running that evergreen campaign, you can start to then introduce new versions of that. Okay, we know this works. How's a way to tell this same story, but a little bit differently to see if it performs even better? I do the same thing. Now I allocate X amount of budget to it. And usually, that's going to be less than 50% if it's the second go around. But either way, the biggest message is you want to let it breathe, give it enough time to garner some results. And then, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks down the road, you can make the decision on, where to optimize and where to pull back.
This is great. We're going to stop, and we're going to close it from an audio perspective here. And I have a few more questions that have popped up that we will answer via chat. And if you want to do any more follow-up from there, feel free to reach out just through the communication that follows this, and we'd be happy to jump on and do even more with you guys. Thank you. Thanks everyone for all of your time. This is a lot of fun for us. Maybe that's a twisted form of fun, maybe, but we really enjoy doing this. Adam, thank you for joining. It's incredible to have you on the call.
Thank you, Brock. Appreciate it.
Okay, everybody, have a great day. Take care.